Hello, Unity Ventura. I'm Reverend Michelle Hubbard, and I am so grateful to be able to be presenting to you for the very first time. Today, I'm going to be talking about being a living blessing. And I want to let you know that I've collected what, for me, is some really powerful and great information, and I have it on notes that I'm going to be referring to throughout my talk. I'm going to begin with a quote from the Bible, and it comes from the Old Testament. And it's from Ezekiel. We may think of the Old Testament as really being a part of the Bible that's broken up into two sections, a New Testament and an Old Testament. But in the Hebrew religion, there are actually three Bibles, all of which comprise what we would think of as the Old Testament. And the first book in their three Bibles is called the Torah. And in this book, it represents the covenant between God and the people. The main covenant is really God saying to the people, I'll take care of you, I'll give you anything and everything you need and want, and I will provide for you a land of milk and honey. And all God asks in return is that you praise me. Well, that seems pretty easy, seems pretty straightforward, but wouldn't you know that the people were not really able to keep it up and to stay really devoted in their praise of and turning to God. And so that's why we see so many instances of the people wandering the desert, being in a time of struggle, looking for, asking for, not seeing God, because this is the journey of coming back to God. And so Ezekiel comes at this time of struggle. Ezekiel comes at this time when the people are wandering in the desert, looking for rain, wanting food, wondering if God has abandoned them. And so the quote I want to share with you comes from Ezekiel 34, verses 25 through 27. And in this, God says, I'll make a covenant of peace with them. I'll make them and everything around a blessing. I'll send down showers of blessing. They'll feel content and safe, and they'll realize that I am God when I break them out of their slavery and rescue them from their slave masters. And this is from the Message translation. That's my favorite translation of the Bible. So as I was thinking about this quote, I was thinking about slave master. I don't really feel like I'm anybody's slave. I don't really feel like I have a master over me. And yet one of the things I love about Unity is that we're always invited to take a metaphysical, a beyond the physical, a beyond the written word look at the Bible. And so at the same time that I was pondering this Bible quote, I was also researching Lessons in Truth by Unity Master Teacher H. Emily Cady. And this concept of slave and slave master reminded me of the very first lesson, which talks about being in bondage. And the first lesson is bondage or liberty which. And so I thought, well, let me see what H. Emily Cady can say that will help guide me as I try and make this quote from the Bible more relevant. So here's something I'd like to share with you from this very first lesson, and it's that every man believes himself to be in bondage to the flesh and to the things of the flesh, and all suffering is a result of this belief. Now, when she talks about things of the flesh and being in bondage to the flesh, she's not talking about lust. What she's really talking about is life in a physical body as a human being. And if you start to think about it, which I did right now in our time in this world, there are a lot of calls of attention to our life in the flesh. One of the things that we're constantly being asked to focus on, if not even to some extent be obsessed about, is numbers. What are the COVID numbers? What are the Omicron numbers? Am I 6 feet apart from someone? Am I 5.5 feet apart from someone? Wait, what does 6 feet look like? Then there's other kinds of numbers. Wait, how much do I weigh today? How many grams of this did I eat? What's the calorie ratio for that? And then, of course, there's the ever popular financial numbers. What's in my bank account right now? What's the number on the bills that are coming in right now? numbers alone are an absolutely huge part of living in the flesh that can get a really huge amount of our attention. So this is what causes us to be in bondage to things of the flesh, is allowing our attention to be so gripped on the life as a human being in time and space that we forget our divine true nature. Who or what is it that's actually forcing us to be in this bondage, to go through this suffering as we let our attention be gripped by things of the flesh? It's us. It's us. It's the choice that we make on where we place our attention. Well, how can we break out of this slavery? Because I don't know about you, but I don't find it comfortable at all. When I'm in worry and doubt, oh my goodness, I'm in an awful lot of pain. So I return again to Lessons in Truth. And here's really some absolutely beautiful information. It is an expression of divine law, of all love, all good, that we, who are at first focused on the flesh part of ourself, will grow up through various stages and by various processes to the divine or spiritual understanding wherein we know that we are one with God and wherein we are free from slavery and suffering because we consciously choose to focus on God and blessings all around us. Somewhere on our journey, our thoughts gladly bow to our spiritual self and confess that the spiritual self, the Christ consciousness, is the living presence of God. In just that little paragraph and a half, she's explained to us that it's okay, it's natural to be focused on the flesh part of ourselves because we're going to grow up through that. And our focus is instead going to become more and more directed on the living God in us. And then when we can do this, we will see God's blessings showering down upon us. And then we can allow ourselves to see actually us, this human being, to be the blessing that we were created to be. Remember, God said that God had created us as a blessing, as one of the blessings that was being showered down. Now, here's a great piece of information from H. Emily Cady. Everyone must sooner or later come to this point of experience. So one of the ways to stay focused on God is to make a commitment to keep God first. And the great thing about making a commitment is that this can become your home base for if you forget. Now, when you forget and get caught up in some sort of issue or concern of things of the flesh, don't beat yourself up. Instead, just remind yourself, okay, what can I see now that's a blessing? I have a commitment to keeping God first. What are qualities of God that I know are real or true? And then go back to that. And maybe you want to change your commitment. Maybe you want to have the wording of your commitment be a little bit different. And then once you have your commitment real solid in your attention at that moment, then recommit to that. And know that you are making a commitment to focus on God. God is the good, the presence of divine love, and that it's living within you. And as the quote from Ezekiel says, that this is raining down on you and everything around you and as blessing. Another way to keep God first, to stay focused on God, is to be brave enough to show up honestly, vulnerably, even messy. Because remember, God created you and declared you to be a blessing just as you are. And then you, being brave enough to show up as you truthfully are in a moment, is going to create a safe space and be a blessing to someone else who then might feel brave enough to say, you know what, I'm hurting in this way also. And then by being present with them, you're being a blessing to them. Now, another way to keep God first is to honestly claim and own and see yourself, you, that means you, the human you, as a blessing. God declared you a blessing. It may not feel exactly comfortable yet, but keep reminding yourself that I am a living blessing. And then give yourself space to learn, grow, make mistakes, start over, and let it be okay for you to forget the truth of who you are sometimes. Just give yourself a hug and let the presence of God within, living within, that you know and believe is the truth, let that be revealed through you as a blessing. A last way to stay focused on God, and for those of you who have been studying unity for a while, this will be absolutely familiar territory. Another way is to stay in a focus of prayer and meditation. One of the beautiful things about unity is that it doesn't make you have to distinguish between prayer and meditation. It admits that they're very, very similar. So you don't have to worry about, oh wait, am I talking to God right now or am I listening to God right now? This prayer is going on kind of long. Does that mean I'm in meditation? Oh, I only meditated for a couple of seconds right then, but I felt pretty deep. Does that mean I was really praying? You don't have to worry about anything on that. Instead, what we focus on is not someone or something that's outside of us, but the unity belief, and I think this is just such a beautiful and powerful belief, is that when we are in prayer and meditation, our focus is rather to raise our own consciousness, to be in alignment with the qualities of God. Unity co-founder Charles Fillmore says that prayer is the most accelerated mind action known. It steps up mental action until man's consciousness synchronizes with the Christ mind. It is the language of spirituality. It makes man master in the realm of creative ideas. We practice prayer in order to experience an elevating of consciousness that our hearts and minds might open to receive guidance, healing, and a greater awareness of the divine that is our true nature. So this is a rather radical approach to prayer, but it is so powerful and so strong because we are coming from a perspective not of asking this someone or something outside of us for favors, but rather coming and saying, I know I'm one with you and I want that to be bigger and deeper. I want to more completely connect with what I know is my true divine nature. So most important, when you make your commitment to be in prayer and in meditation so that your focus will remain on God, is to not only keep it on God, but to keep it so that you come from the consciousness of God within. Remember, you have the living presence of God within you as you're doing your prayer or meditation. Now, when we free ourselves from matters of the flesh, and we keep God first in our attention to be sure that we are out of any sort of bondage that's gripping our attention and taking it away from God first, then it's easier to show up in the world and focus on the blessings that are around us, that are showering down on us. We no longer come from a perspective of bondage or slavery to the news, to social media, to bad news, to worry. And we can come from a place of a very joyful heart, a God that recognizes God, and that includes the living presence of God within and as us. God is all there is. And then when we're in this perspective, we become so completely present to the blessing of a moment, because a lot of the ways that matters of the flesh distract us is by a dire future. So when we're present in an exact moment, then we're in God. And we can see how we can be the blessing in that moment simply by being ourselves. I want to thank you so much for the blessing of being able to be with you today. If you have any questions about my talk, you can email me at reverendmichellehubbard@gmail.com. I wish you a very blessing-filled day.